said, if I gave you $10 million, what would you feel like? They're like, oh, dude, I'd be excited as hell. What if I told you I'll give you the 10 million, but you can't wake up tomorrow? Most people would say absolutely not. So you value waking up more than $10 million. Yeah, clearly. Even 50 million if you think about it. Then pretty soon you're like, I don't know if there's any amount of money in the world that would fucking cause me not to want to wake up. Then why don't you act like that every time you wake up? I wake up happy. I wake up optimistic. I wake up hopeful. I'm happy the second my eyes open. There is no doom and gloom with me. People always say, how you doing, buddy? I am doing unbelievable. I am better than donuts. Have you ever had donuts?
Absolutely.
How were they?
Amazing.
I'm better than donuts, bro. Because I'm the one driving. So what kind of an idiot would I be if you ask me how's it going and I say shitty? Who's driving? Don't complain about the hand you've been dealt if you're the dealer. Stop dealing yourself those cars. Now, some people can say, well, shit happens. Well, shit does happen. And it's tough, okay? But when you say, life is tough, man, I would disagree. Why? I don't think life is tough. It's never been tough. Now, people can say, Brad, you were homeless before. Yeah, so that's not tough, is it?
Brad Lea.
Open book.
Welcome to the Rollercoaster podcast.
Thank you, buddy.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me in.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. The nature of this show is that every one of my guests, I think, has their own roller coaster story that they've been through in their life. And it's my responsibility to show how people got to where they're at. A lot of the guests that we have on are tech entrepreneurs. It's kind of that's my world. It's the world that I understand. It's the world where I'm most connected. But more recently, I've started interviewing other accomplished people. And you've been a dream guest since I launched the podcast at the beginning of this year. And so thank you for coming on the show.
Well, sure. And technically, I'm in tech.
I know you are. A little bit different kind of tech founder, which we'll talk about, which I'm excited about today. We're going to bounce around a little bit, but the first thing that I want to talk to you about, Brad, is a concept that I call circle management. Okay. It's the idea of when do you decide who gets to come in the circle, who gets to stay in the circle, and who has to leave the circle. I'd love to get your take on how you manage your close inner circle.
It's a good question and a mighty important one, I might say, because how important that is. I think it's an ongoing conversation, I think your standards need to continuously raise, and, you have to continuously reassess and make adjustments. Just depends on your lifestyle at the time, what's happening, how old are you? There's a lot of variables, and I think over life it can change. But at the end of the day, I mean, you want to keep your circle small I think you should make your circle big, but the problem is there's not that many people that you'll find that are, deserving to be in the circle. Do you know who is in the circle though? You. Not my circle, your circle. You know what I mean? We are the first one in our circles, and people need to understand that. Like if we can just realize like it's our circle. Who belongs in there? Well, you be the judge. And I would just keep your standards high is all I'm saying. But you're the first one in your circle, which is, that makes you the king. Or the queen, depending on whose circle you're talking about.
I think there's a lot of people that feel like they have to hold on to relationships from 10, 15, 20 years ago because of history, because of what we've been through together, the past. They were there for me when I was at my lowest. But I think things evolve and change, right? So how do you decide when it's time for somebody to leave?
How I do it is just by listening to them and watching them. Anybody that's negative or, scarce, I just kind of fade away from.
And can somebody get in?
If me and you were buddies, and every time I started talking to you, dude, it was gloom and doom and boo-hoo and, all this bullshit, I would just slowly fade away.
Yeah.
And, when you said the circle part, I was trying to think who's in my circle. depends on how you define that circle, because believe it or not, man, we have many different circles.
That's right.
I have a lot of people in one circle.
Are they like this though?
Yeah.
They go out.
Yeah.
From the sacred inner circle, right?
Well, again, the closer to you, you're the center of the circle.
Yeah.
The closer to you, obviously, the fewer, so the rings get smaller.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would prefer, like I said, man, I would prefer I was best friends with everybody on earth.
Interesting.
I would prefer. Wouldn't that be nice?
I don't think so.
Oh, buddy, you'd be freaking loaded. You'd have all the resources in the world. You'd be taken care of. You'd never have to worry. You could literally live a worry-free life at this point. Everybody's your friend. Everybody's your resource. Shit. Imagine calling up Elon. Elon, bro, I need 12 mil for this deal. He don't give a rat's dick. It's 12 mil. Like, to him, that's nothing. That's like me giving you $20.
But the problem is, does everybody else have that same access?
Well,
or you're just saying just for you?
I'm talking about me, bro.
Just for you?
I don't talk about other people.
Well, you asked me if I wanted the same access.
Wouldn't you?
I mean, when you say it like that, yeah, sure.
Well, isn't it all perspective when you boil it down?
Yeah.
So that's the same answer when it comes to my circle. It's like, it's just a perspective. Like, I want people in my circle, you know, that are high ethics, high integrity. You know, they wouldn't hurt anybody. They're actually there to help people. You know, they're generous, they're kind. You know, and I can take as many as I could find of those. The problem is there's a lot of damaged individuals out there, and they, for whatever reason, they are insecure and scarce and negative and pessimistic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. I mean, I don't like them around me.
Yeah.
In other words, I don't mind if someone's that way. Like, I almost feel bad for you. I always, you know, want to just give you a high five. I feel like doing Borat when I see a negative dude like that. I just want to go high five.
Do you have like one guy or gal that comes to mind? If you're in a real pinch, you know, middle of the night, on the street, whatever, you're in a pinch, who you calling?
You know, it depends on how big of a pinch. You know, it depends on the pinch. You know, I probably wouldn't be calling anybody. You know, I don't call people. I don't ask for shit. I take care of things myself, usually. I learned that growing up, you know, from my dad. So I wouldn't call anyone more than likely. But, you know, if the pinch was big enough or weird enough or something where I would call somebody, I would probably call, you know, one of 5 people.
That's the group.
Well, I mean,
that's the sacred inner circle.
Well, that would be the, you know, the people that I think could help at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whether they can or will are 2 different things.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, obviously, you know, Andy Frisella.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, shit, I'd call him because he can get shit. He can definitely get shit done if he wants to.
Yeah.
But, you know, why would I call him? You know, we're not besties. You know, we don't hang out, and I'm not there at his house at Christmas, and, you know, we're not lifelong friends or anything. So, you know, I wouldn't call Andy, even though I could, you know, and nor would he call me, even though he could.
Yeah.
You know, so when I think of it like that, the answer is probably nobody. I wouldn't call anybody.
Yeah.
Who would you call? And why are you calling is my question. What are they going to do? Solve it for you?
I think you're right. I think it depends on the pinch, right? If like it required another human to be involved, I'm similar to you. I have less than 3, 4 people.
Yeah, but like a ride. Let's say you need a ride.
No chance.
Who would you call?
Uber.
Right. See, I wouldn't even call a friend, even though they would come get me, but I wouldn't bother them.
Yeah.
There's little yellow things driving around called cabs. You just get in them. So same thing. Depends on the pinch, right? Like, think of things literally.
Yeah.
Like, who would I call? And then that's when I say, I wouldn't call anybody, which I wouldn't. But if, like, who could I call? Do I have friends that I could call if shit hit the fan? Of course I do. You know, they're few and far between, though. Like, the ones that will really, they would really get out of bed and be concerned and, you know, go through a headache to help you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's only a couple that I would consider calling in that situation. And unless I couldn't help myself for some reason, I probably, the only person I'd call is my wife, probably. And then I'd have her call everybody.
I love it. It's one thing I think people appreciate about you is your non-conventional thinking. right? You're never boxed into anything. And I think that's an interesting trait that you have. Thank you to our sponsors over at Bucked Up. I love this company. I love their products, their apparel, and their supplements. Recently, they dropped the mother of all pre-workouts, Mother Bucker. This is not for the faint of heart. This will make you want to claw your face off. So don't get stuck in traffic when you're headed to the gym. I love these guys. I love this company, and I love their products. They are clearly the best tasting pre-workout on the entire market, and they're number one for a reason. Bucked Up is my favorite workout brand, hands down. And they also have my favorite apparel for working out and just for daily life. It's Lululemon-like quality, but for a fraction of the price that's affordable. So head over to their site, buckedup.com, where you can check it out. And for 20% off their entire site, use the code TylerHall20. Staying on the topic of relationships, you're married.
Yes.
You and your wife have couple friends that you hang out with?
A few.
Okay. What's the probability of couple friends lining up perfectly or even close enough to where you both want to spend time with both of them? Like a new couple to come into your life.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we meet people all the time that are cool. Like the dude's cool and the chick's cool and my wife likes the girl and I like the dude and like, hey man, this is a cool couple. But if my wife doesn't like the guy or doesn't like the girl, you know, I tend to follow what my wife thinks because she's a better judge of character. Like I always think everybody's cool and funny. You know, sometimes my wife will tell me that girl wants you. And I'm like, what are you talking about, babe? Trust me, girls know. And I'm like, babe, you're being ridiculous. And I really do think she is. And then the next thing you know, I get a text from that person and it's, let's just say, suggestive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did she know? Like, that's crazy. So I just stopped like paying attention to that stuff. But we have friends, you know, we have a couple of, most of our friends are couples. Like I don't have any single friends. Of course, I'm old, bro. How old are you?
32.
Yeah, see, dude, when I was 32, you know, I was still running around. I was running.
But I've been married 12 years. Think about that.
I was running and gunning. Well, I was married like 10 at 32.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got married, I think at 20, let's say 2.
Yeah.
And then divorced at 30, 31, maybe. So just getting divorced for the first time.
Yeah.
Now the 9th time, no, just joking.
I want to ask you about a concept called the spotlight effect. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So the idea of the spotlight effect is that everybody around us, we believe as humans that everybody around us has a spotlight on us and that they actually care and give a shit what we're doing every day. And we tend to react and act in a way that is trying to please all these spotlights from these different people. But the reality is nobody actually gives a shit what you're doing. Nobody cares. Nobody's really looking at you that closely. But we build up these ideas in our mind, right? One thing I respect a lot about you from what I've seen is that you tend to have on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10 out of 10 when it comes to not giving a fuck. And I think that's a really hard trait to develop. But I think once it's developed as a man, and I hope all men get there one day, it changes men's lives and it changes women's lives. Once you can release this, like, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to be fully authentic. I'm not going to be worried about what the rest of the world thinks. How do you get there? Like, how did you get to this? I don't assume you've been this way forever. It's probably been in there, but how did you get to this place where you can truly just be your full authentic self?
Well, I mean, you come to use common sense, really, because common sense tells us that you can't please everyone, right? So if you can't please everyone, who are you going to choose? So you have to choose someone to please. So, most people don't realize that they are an option. Like, in other words, you're on that list as well. Why wouldn't you just choose yourself? Why don't you get to be the one that decides? Why does someone else get to decide? Why does someone else get to be beneficiary? Why can't you be beneficiary? Well, when you think of that, you just think to yourself, well, shit, yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, it's common sense. Now, I don't have to worry about making you happy or that person happy, because all I have to worry about is making myself happy. And if I'm happy, it doesn't matter if they're happy or not, right? Okay, so that's just common sense to me. And that's kind of how I developed it over time. Now, I had to learn that, but at the end of the day, there was I call them sacred six, but there was a little procedure that I took. Number one, I had to forgive myself for all the bullshit, lies, procrastination, all the crap I pulled on myself. If you look at it from a friendship status, you're the worst friend you've ever had to yourself. And most people don't even realize that. So you have to forgive and apologize, wipe the slate clean, just get rid of all that bad energy. You apologize. You wipe the slate clean. Second, you commit to do what you say you're going to do. That way, that if you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. That builds ethics and integrity, and, it just builds you a backbone, doing what you say you're going to do. And then number three, you have to start racking up what I call wins. You win a lot, you start to feel like a winner. Okay. You lose a lot, you start to feel like a loser. So why set a big goal of 100,000 and come in at 70 and then hear everybody rationalize that it's pretty darn good, but you lost. A W is a W and an L is an L. You lost, bro. So now subconsciously, keep in mind, everything's going on in your head subconsciously as well. Subconscious, below subconscious, awareness, below awareness. You are losing all day, every day, and you don't even realize it. But your subconscious does, and it knows that you're a loser because you lose a lot. So I say, let's take action and create a lot of wins throughout the day. So just set smaller, attainable goals and then acknowledge that they're wins. Like you said, you saw me at 10X and 17 or whatever. Was that when I said brush your teeth? Mm-hmm. Okay. The whole convention still remembers that years later. No one remembers anything else from that event except for me telling them to brush your fucking teeth. Why? Because all these rich people running around trying to freaking, pretend that they want more out of life, but they can't even brush their teeth, man. People would walk up with bad breath, and I'd be like, you realize you're at a networking event for opportunities, and you're letting your breath be bad. Now, a lot of people think, well, you can't help that. That's something stupid to say. No, it's not. That's my point. It's not stupid. It's intelligent. Like, make sure that people are judging us, right? So don't make it easy for them. Mm-hmm. But anyway, you rack up the wins by setting smaller goals, like eat one less French fry. Okay. Walk on the treadmill one more second, make one more cold call, shake one more hand, help one more person than you normally do. Whatever it is, just little tiny wins all day long. And pretty soon you start feeling like a winner. And that is what happens. You start to get a little bit more secure and a little bit more confident, and you feel better about yourself. You start actually feeling good about yourself. And then what'll happen is people will start noticing this, and they'll start telling you, who do you think you are, bro? Like certain ones will tell you, what are you doing, man? I liked you better before. Who do you think you are now? Oh, you think you're going to get rich all of a sudden? Oh, let me guess. You're being positive. You know you're never going to last. All that negative shit we hear, right? Sometimes from ourselves as well. But those people will start doing that as soon as you start to feel better about yourself and start feeling like you deserve more because you act different and you talk different, and people don't like that. So they want you to be the old you, so they'll start telling you things, and you got to get rid of those people. That's the negativity. You got to constantly weed out the negative. I call it the hate in the headlines. Why? Because it's always negative. Just get rid of the negative. And no matter what, it doesn't matter who it is. If they're negative, get rid of them. Just cut them out, at least mentally. Like some people say, well, I'm my wife and you're my husband. Look, if you're in a situation where you got kids and all this other stuff, I don't want to say blow them out. But if you're talking about how do I succeed, you cannot succeed as easily with somebody negative in your face all the time. You just can't. So get rid of those people. That's all I'm saying. Like if it's a husband or a wife, close it out, or have a talk with her, or him, but close it out. Just agree that you're not validating anything that comes out of their mouth. Why? Because it's bullshit. Next, and then you probably will eventually drift apart and end up divorced anyway. But point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter who it is. You have to choose what you want. You want your relationship, or do you want this end goal of being wealthy? Because you can't necessarily be wealthy, and you can, because there's always a possibility, but you can't necessarily be wealthy if you're constantly surrounded by a bunch of negative people putting you down. That's just my belief. Someone can argue that. If I wanted to, I could jump on the other side and argue that. Yes, you could. Yeah, but rarely. I would be talking rarely, of course. So why not just get in the habit of getting rid of people? So all negativity you send away. Then the fifth thing you do is you visualize where it is that you believe success lies. So you see it and feel it every day. Visualize it every single day. And then step 6 is to open up and read a book, 10 to 30 pages a day, every single day. Because you have to get new knowledge to change your beliefs, and you have to change your beliefs to change your actions. So if you want to change what you're getting, you have to change what you're doing, right? And if you want to change what you're doing, then you have to change what you believe, because the reason you do what you do is because you believe whatever it is you believe. We operate based on our beliefs. Our behavior is driven by our beliefs. So if you want to change your behavior, you have to change your beliefs. And the only way to change your beliefs is to get new information. If you have the same information and you get no new information, you cannot change your beliefs. It'll never happen, because it's the same information, and you believe what you believe. And you go, no, I believe something else now. It didn't just happen. You learned something, you saw something, you observed something, you got information that changed your belief. So knowing that you have to have information to change your belief, why not be intentional and consume it every single day? So it just accelerates. Again, read more and you'll probably get there quicker. But just get new information, become more valuable to yourself and others, become smarter, right? And really it causes you to think, and most people don't do that either. So it really causes you to think when you read every day, and throw things around in your head and really start to contemplate where you went wrong and what you actually want, and you start to get to know who you are, and pretty soon you start to stand up for yourself. And talk about roller coaster, dude, it'll be a roller coaster. There'll be people that have to leave your life that you don't necessarily want to leave your life because you love them. But at the end of the day, you didn't ask that question. So that's how you do it. That's how you build that confidence and self-assurance and certainty. You forgive yourself. You commit to do what you say you're going to do. You rack up the wins so you're constantly winning, even in your mind. Doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. But rack up the wins on a regular basis. Get rid of all the negative people and shit talkers. Visualize exactly where it is so you feel it every day. Like you can smell the shit, you can feel the shit, and then read books constantly. Good self-help books, not like, the shampoo bottle when you're taking a dump. I'm talking about pick up a good book and read it, and read it multiple times, and then pick up another one and pick up another one. And every day I'm intentionally trying to get some information. Why? Because I want my beliefs to change. And people don't realize that you have to change. That's inevitable. If you don't change, nothing changes. So you have to change, but people don't like to change, man. People like their comfort. People like their familiarity. I tell people this. I say, listen, money comes from relationships. Every dollar you've ever received has come from some form of relationship. Think about it. Try to prove me wrong.
There's no self-made millionaires out there?
Well, I don't believe in self-made millionaires anyway, even though I'd be considered one.
Yeah.
But no, not even the same. To me, you're not getting there by yourself, that's for sure. So you agree that all revenue has come from a relationship? Yes or no?
Yes.
So
I think I do.
You would have to, because that's the answer.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Anyone that can debate that, I'd love to have that debate, but no one has so far. Everyone agrees. Yes, that's true. It is true. When you think about it, wow, that is true. Okay, so do you want more money?
Yes.
Get more relationships. See how easy that is? That to me is common sense, but people miss it all the time. Oh, I got enough friends. Dude, you don't have enough friends. Okay? You don't know enough people. If you knew the right people right now, you would have everything you wanted in life. Do you know that? The reason you don't have everything you want is because you don't know the right people. So why wouldn't it make sense for you to go out and shake hands and introduce yourself? How do you know where they are and who they are unless you freaking meet everybody? Like, you got to go out and introduce yourself, but most people won't. Why? They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to look foolish. I got enough friends. I hate people, quite frankly. These are all scarce, pessimistic, limited, people. And they're everywhere. It's crazy. They're everywhere. I'm not one of those. I've taught myself to be optimistic through gratitude. When I wake up in the morning, I realize that's the most valuable gift you can get, and I get it every fucking day. So who am I to be pissed off that they were out of fucking mayonnaise at my favorite restaurant? Like, all the stupid shit we get upset about, dude, we got a chance to live. And if you think about it financially, I said this once, it went viral. Like, it's in different languages, what I said that one day. I said, if I gave you $10 million, what would you feel like? They're like, oh, dude, I'd be excited as hell. Of course I would. Everybody would. Like, you'd feel so good. Well, what if I told you I'll give you the 10 million, but you can't wake up tomorrow? Most people would say absolutely not. So you value waking up more than $10 million. Yeah, clearly. Even 50 million if you think about it. Then pretty soon you're like, I don't know if there's any amount of money in the world that would fucking cause me not to want to wake up. Okay, so then you are in the right place, number one. Then why don't you act like that every time you wake up? That's the biggest, light bulb that pops off in people's heads. Mine popped off a long time ago. I wake up happy. I wake up optimistic. I wake up hopeful. I'm happy the second my eyes open. There is no doom and gloom with me. People always say, how you doing, buddy? I'm like, that is a wasted question. I am doing unbelievable. I am better than donuts. Have you ever had donuts?
Absolutely.
How were they?
Amazing.
I'm better than donuts, bro. Because I'm the one driving. So what kind of an idiot would I be if you ask me how's it going and I say shitty? Who's driving? You know what I'm saying? Don't complain about the hand you've been dealt if you're the dealer. You know what I mean? Stop dealing yourself those cars. Now, some people can say, well, shit happens. Well, shit does happen. And it's tough, okay? But when you say, life is tough, man, I would disagree. Why? I don't think life is tough. It's never been tough. I mean, thankfully. Now, people can say, Brad, you were homeless before. Yeah, so that's not tough, is it? Is that tough? Sleeping on a beach?
Not as tough as not waking up.
Sleeping on a beach for a couple of weeks? Dude, people pay to sleep on beaches. Okay? I got to sit there and, be outdoors. It wasn't that bad, bro. It wasn't that bad. And not only that, I was kind of choosing to be there. I could have freaking packed my ass and hitchhiked back to Oregon, and I could have
bunked up with somebody.
Oh yeah, I could have got my way out of that, which again I did, but I put myself in it. So I'm like, it's almost like a choice. Like, I chose not to go home and beg my dad to let me back in. You know what I mean? Hey, you're right. Can I come stay here? Fuck that.
Man, that was a lot. There was a lot there. There's a specific one that you talked about, which is this: more relationships equals more money,
More hands to shake, more money to make.
I think a great example of that is I reached out to you. Who am I? Right? I'm nobody to you. And I said, hey man, we should do a show. We should do a podcast together. And I think your words were, let's do it. That's it. We lined it up. Here we are. We're meeting. And we don't know what this relationship might be in 6 months or a year or 10 years from now, right?
Or who's listening.
Or who's
maybe
listening.
Someone listening goes, dude, I love this fucking Brad Lea guy. And next thing you know, we're doing business. Me and you aren't, but me and him are.
Sure.
Or her.
Sure.
See what I'm saying? It came from a relationship of some kind.
100%. No, and I love that mentality, man. I reached out to, I actually shared this on my Instagram. I reached out to a couple of people that I really wanted to have on the show. You were one of them. Andy Elliott was one of them, and a couple of other folks. You and Andy, super nice, super gracious, like humble, like, yeah, man, like, let's do it. I'd love to come on. One other individual who I'm going to spare saying their name live was like, basically, who the fuck are you? Right. And I just said, well, I didn't really actually know how to respond candidly. I just said, hey man, you want to do the show or not? I wouldn't
have responded that.
I know you wouldn't. And I'm curious to get your take. I said, hey man, look, I get it. Right now we're small.
I wouldn't have said that.
For you?
I would have said, you know what I would have said? If you said that to me and I offered you to be on my podcast and then you said, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
I would have said, I apologize. I'm obviously in error. Allow me to freaking pretend I didn't call. Enjoy life, bro. Hang on.
No, and I mean,
I wouldn't have said, do you want to do it or not? Fuck you. If you talk to me like that, you're not allowed to do it.
There you go.
You would be off my list immediately.
Yeah. And I said, hey man, I said, and I know you know this guy, by the way.
I know, I'm sure.
That's the deal. And I said,
I know everybody, just so you know.
I know you do. And I said, hey, look, I know I'm small potatoes for you, but in the future, I believe that you're going to want to come on the show. I'll reach out when the timing's right. Okay. It didn't stop there. He then was like, oh, you think I'm going to just come on for free? You should be paying guests like me to come on your show. And, it was just like the stark difference between the two reactions. By the way, zero offense to me. I don't care. Like,
well, it depends. Again,
no problem.
If the person's going to draw you a bunch of attention and get you very large and in charge because they were on your show, that would be a true statement and a wise move. Pay them.
Sure.
But, I made the choice a long time ago not to pay anybody. I'm not paying anybody to be on my show. You either want to be on my show or you don't. And if you don't, fuck off. I don't care.
I agree.
Like, who the fuck are you? That's my position.
But it's cool. I mean, the point here is you and Andy, two guys I respect a lot, both like, they get what you're saying. They understand that, hey, by me doing this podcast, it could mean a new relationship with Tyler. It could mean a new relationship with somebody else out there in the world who's listening to this thing. And I think others should really listen to that and really pay attention. I think it's important. So,
well, you got to draw a line somewhere, obviously, but yeah, I think more people should be more open to building and creating relationships. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. I didn't see you take that note, but that's the best one anyone can take. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. Period. That's a fact.
How could I forget that? I don't need to write that down.
Yeah, that there's emblazoned.
You talk about access. I want to maybe close the loop on that by just saying, like, there's a lot of people that access to people and building relationships does not come naturally, for sure. So how do you encourage people to gain access to new relationships?
Gain access to new relationships? Introduce yourself. I
don't think it's that easy though.
Well, sure it is.
I think it depends on.
Yesterday I went over to Dan Bilzerian's house and he drove me around the desert in this fucking $1 million race truck. It's and that was my first introduction. Hey, get in. Literally walked up. Hey, how you doing, Brad Lea? Hey, how you doing, buddy? Dan. Hey, it's nice to see you. Get in real quick. And
You'd never met before this?
Never.
How'd you guys get in touch?
His right-hand man follows me on social media, reached out and said, hey, we understand you have a little bit of knowledge in creating courses. I'm like, a few years. And then he said, well, I think we want to create one. Dan wants to create a couple courses. He wants to help people. And I said, good, about time. I'll come over. I walk up. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Yeah, get in. I jump in the back of this freaking $1 million racing Raptor machine. It was on a Raptor.
A trophy truck?
It was basically a roll cage with a beast motor and then a Raptor body, but it wasn't really a Raptor. It's a fully on $1 million race truck. Yeah. Like Baja 400 type shit.
Yeah.
Proceeded to go out there and, I could have flipped. We could have ended up dead, but, I knew, number one, if I didn't go, I'd be looked at as a serious pussy. Now, some people would say, well, Brad, I thought you didn't care what people think. See, you gotta listen and pay attention as to what people say, because when you say, like you said, I got a great skill that I don't give a fuck. It's almost that I do. See what I'm saying? Most people don't, and that's their problem. They need to start. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't give a fuck about themselves. They don't give a fuck about, their families. You see what I'm saying? Like I do. That's the difference. Most people think it's I don't, but I do. But how do you get in there and gain access to relationships? Well, first it starts with an introduction. I promise you that. And then next thing it's usually built on is some sort of value. I could start texting you memes and jokes and you laugh and you show your wife and she thinks I'm funny, and you guys, every time I freaking reach out or you run into me, it's funny and it's smiles and it's happiness, right? That's value. People always think value has to be money. It can be time, it can be laughter, it can be, reprieve, who knows, comfort. But the next step is you build value. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the next question begs, what do you have to offer, right? I think don't people need to...
See? Listen to what you're doing right now. What are you thinking in your head?
People's limiting belief is, what do I have to offer?
That's what I'm saying.
Asking myself the question, right?
But you shouldn't be asking yourself that.
I think a lot of people struggle with that, though.
Oh, well, 100% they do. That's right? The problem.
Maybe that's why
they need to go get, corrected. When people say, what do you mean? I say relationships are the most important thing. When you get ready to die, bro, you're going to be thinking about relationships, not your businesses.
For sure.
You're not going to be thinking about your money. You're not going to be thinking about your cars. You're not going to be thinking about your houses. You're going to be thinking about the people in your life. I promise you that. Okay. Relationships, but the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. And most people go their entire lives and have a shitty relationship with themselves. And then they die broke and lonely and sad and depressed. And they don't realize that there was never a place or a thing or, a lot of people think if I just had this, I'd be happy. But they don't realize they're already happy. They just don't think they are. See the difference? Like happiness at the end of the day is a choice. You choose to be happy, even though some situations it's harder to choose that, but it's still a choice. You can put two people in the exact same situation and one be upset and one be completely freaking excited. How do you explain that? Perspective, right? That's a choice. You choose to be happy. You don't find it. You don't create it. You choose it. I can be happy with a Voss water for 3 days. Why? Well, because one time I lived without water for 22 days. Someone said, well, what about, it's all perspective, man. I was mad that I had no shoes until I saw a man with no feet. See what I'm saying? Like, dude, it's all what you choose to see.
And he was mad that he didn't have feet until he saw a man that had no legs.
And it keeps going.
And that...
So that's what I'm talking about, man. You base it in common sense and gratitude, and you'll be all right. Use common sense. I don't want to bring up anything that might get this episode suppressed, but a couple of years ago, shit was going on that I kept telling people, like, dude, use common sense. They're begging you to do something with French fries and lap dances, and like, dude, are you kidding me?
What? What are you talking about? I don't know.
That made no sense. By the way, round 2's coming back from what I hear. So it made no sense. And then it was just like, listen, use your fucking brains, people. You can't make everyone happy. You can't make everyone happy. Okay, so stop trying and now pick who you're going to make happy, because you have to make somebody happy. Who's it going to be? Well, why do I have to make anyone happy? Exactly. Now you're starting to fucking get it. Exactly. Why? Why do I got to make people happy? I don't have to make anyone happy. Exactly. Hey, I got an idea. How about make yourself happy? Well, there's a novel idea. Well, everyone will tell you that's selfish. Everyone will tell you that's rude. Everyone will tell you blah, blah, blah. You know what it's called? Allodoxophobia. Allodoxophobia. I don't know if that's a little computer right there, but Google allodoxophobia and you'll see exactly what it means. Before you even get there, I'll tell you what it means. It's the fear of other people's opinion. Literally. So people have allodoxophobia to some degree, and more than others. Like, you know, I've cured myself of allodoxophobia. Now, does that mean I don't care what people think? Of course I do, dude. I want you to think I'm cool. I want you to think, hey, man, this place is cool, man. This guy's all right. Of course I do. But if you didn't, I'm okay with that too. I don't need you to. See the difference? Mm-hmm. And that's why people say, oh, Brad, how are you so confident? And how are you so, like, I don't give a fuck attitude? It's not that I don't give a fuck. It's the opposite, actually. I do give a fuck. I give a fuck about what I think. And I think my thoughts are just as valuable, if not more, than yours. Why? Well, because who are you? Like, why am I so unimportant around you? Who are you?
Yeah.
And so some people would think that's rude to think. Think about it. Even when you hear it, you're kind of like, well, that's fucking rude. It isn't rude. It's not rude. It's common sense, man. If you have ethics and integrity mixed in, you're going to walk around being a nice, kind, generous person. I always joke around and say I'm like the most angelic person on the planet. Like, I'm the nicest dude you'll ever fucking meet. I'm the kindest, most generous, nicest motherfucker you'll ever meet. Isn't that crazy?
I love it.
And most people wouldn't think so.
Agree.
They see me, they go, oh, he must think he's cool. I do.
But I'm also a super kind person.
Yeah, but that's not why you said that. You didn't say it because you think that I must think it. You thought it because you think it. Mm-hmm. How could I think that you think you're cool unless I thought there was some coolness about you, right? Yeah. I wouldn't just look at somebody that's 490 pounds and ugly as shit and think, I bet you she thinks she's fucking so gorgeous. I don't think that. Why? Because I don't think she's gorgeous. But if I thought she was gorgeous and I was a hater, now I might go, that bitch thinks she's so fine. Look at her.
Yeah.
And you hear people doing this. Do you think these are scarcity or abundant?
Come on.
Okay, so again, folks, pay attention on this podcast. All you got to do is pick up a few nuggets. Look for abundant-minded people. If you are scarcity mindset, change it. You know, if you are an abundance mindset, find other abundance type thinkers. And you can find them, and they're out there. And start hanging with them, and you'll become more abundant. And you'll start laughing at the scarcity side. Like, sometimes, dude, it's so funny listening to people. It's so funny. And I make them feel frustrated because I'll repeat it to them, and they'll get frustrated because they realize how fucking stupid it sounds when I show it to them. See, that's what I do. I put the mirror in people's faces, and sometimes they don't like it. So they call me. I was on an interview before where they said I was blunt and to the point. And I said, blunt? You think I'm blunt? What's the definition of blunt? Go look up the definition of blunt. Dull. You know, it's not what I am. I'm not any of those things. He goes, yeah, I guess you're right. But, you know, I meant you'll just say it. You'll just come out and say it. Why wouldn't anybody? Because they have allodoxophobia, bro. They're worried about what everyone's going to think about how they said a particular thing. Listen, if I said it wrong, I apologize. Like, what do you want me to do? I said it wrong. Sometimes people say, why do you say the F word all the time? I don't say it all the time. You know, when I'm around my kids or a group of kids, I'm not going to sit there and drop F-bombs left and right. Well, why do you say it around adults? Because in my mind, if you can't handle the fuck word as an adult, you're the one that needs help. It's not me that said it. It's you're the one like, oh, you did a boo-boo. You need a little hug. You never heard that before. Is that a bad word? Am I an evil man? Like, dude, come on. Like, grow up a little bit. It's a word. And by the way, it's a word that we gave the meaning to. We gave it the meaning. And you ever know what fuck is? Actually, it's fornication under consent of the king. It used to be stamped on papers when you requested to have children back in the day, that you had to have permission to have children and have sex. And so when you were granted the rights to reproduce in certain colonies, boom, the king would stamp on a piece of paper, F-U-C-K. Fornication.
I don't know if that's real or not.
Fornication under consent of the king.
I'm going to go with it.
It's true.
When we think about, stay on relationships, one of my favorite topics to talk about today, I think about these different currencies or resources that we have. Relationships is one of them. What do you think is the most, if you had to stack rank resources, currencies, whatever you want to call it, what is number one?
What do you mean?
Could be money, it could be time, it could be relationships, it could be
the most
influence.
valuable thing.
What's the most valuable resource that we have?
Obviously, time. There's no other answer. Like you say, it could be this, it could be that. No, it couldn't. It's always the same answer. The most valuable asset we have is time. And what's funny is, you don't know how much of it you have or not have. So I could be richer than you in time, in my time bank, or I could be broke. Because again, if a guy has $100,000 and 30 years to live, and I have $10 billion with 30 seconds to live, who's broke?
Yeah, we went through an experience last year where that was all too real. And when you say it like that, it brings back those memories that are tough, right? Which is, I think we all think that we're untouchable to an extent. When you reach a certain level of financial success, we think we've got it all. Nothing can stop us. And then you have somebody who you love dearly, a spouse that, I lived 3 days thinking she wasn't going to make it. She was going to die. And I lived about 6 hours thinking she was dead. And, what you said became really true. So, do you subscribe to this idea that we should wake up and live every day as if it could be our last day?
I mean, to a point, yeah. I mean, if it was going to be your last day, let's face it, you might do some crazy shit. I wouldn't do that. There could be the possibility of another day. And so you live as if it's your last, but with the possibility of another. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I knew this was my last day, and someone pissed me off, I'd shoot them in their fucking face. Blow their heads off. What's going to happen to me? Nothing. I'm dead.
It's your last day.
I'm dead. I ain't going to prison. I will not have to pay for this. Now, some people say, what about God and eternal life? And you'll have to pay there. Again, isn't that a perspective? So if I had the wrong perspective, if I had the wrong beliefs, they may be correct. And then also, maybe they're not correct. Maybe when we die, it's just lights out, bitch. There's nothing else. You don't even remember living. But I don't believe that. But you see my point, though.
Yeah. What do you believe when it comes to spiritual, religious beliefs? Is that something you think
I believe we were created. We didn't evolve. Like, how did an elephant evolve, and then a butterfly evolve, and then a giraffe, and then a three-toed sloth, and a freaking caterpillar, and a black widow, and a horse, and a freaking orangutan? Like, come on, dude. How did all these different things evolve from one little primordial, ooze 1 billion years ago? No.
Created by what?
Bullshit.
God?
Created by a higher power. Well, God to us, if he created us, that would make him our God. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah, but what do you believe
Our
that is?
creator.
Or does it matter?
I think we have a creator. And yeah, I think it fucking matters pretty much.
Is it like a man?
Of course it is. What do you think? It's a female?
It's a person.
It says if you subscribe to any of the scripture, it says we are made in his image.
So you believe in the scriptures?
Well, sure. I don't necessarily like it. Someone says, Brad, you believe without a shadow of a doubt? No, but only because, again, I'm too common sense based, and I realize nobody knows for sure. And I know that all you can do is read and learn and seek and try to understand and make a choice. And hopefully you're right, especially if like hell's real. Because again, that's another thing I don't really believe. I don't believe in the hell like they make it sound. I don't believe if we do have a God and it's a loving God that we're going to end up in a fiery lake of hell because we made the wrong choice, especially, and he loves us so much. Come on. It's not going to happen. Okay. The hell might be not by knowing he existed afterwards and not being able to live like with him or in that, realm of respect. In other words, like he acknowledges us and then there's a group of people that didn't acknowledge him. So he kind of just, he lets them be, but these are the chosen and man, we're over there just freaking living. I don't know if I'll be one of those, but we'll see because there's still more life to go. And I'm still seeking as I was instructed to do in the scripture. The scripture says, seek and ye shall find. So I'm seeking, I'm doing as I'm told. So if I die right in the middle of it, how is he going to be mad at me? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a him. See, it's a him. And there's two genders.
I agree with you, by the way. Speaking of genders.
By the way, I got an email for someone to be on my podcast, and it was a transgender. And she said, would you like to have one on your show? And I said, I'm thinking in my head, almost. Like yes and no. Why? Well, because dude, I'm going to say what I believe no matter what.
Might hurt your feelings.
Even if one's sitting here. And I would say to you, even though, because I looked her up, she was a cute lady looking transgender. Like she looked like a female. But if it's transgender and it used to be a male and now it just looks like a female, well, then it just looks like one. It ain't actually one. And then, and she was cute and everything, but like, I'm going to say what I believe, which is, hey, I know you feel like one and you think you're one and you modified your body to emulate one. But if 300 years just passed and there was a pile of bones sitting here, some archaeologist would come here and say, two dudes were having a conversation.
You ever wanted to identify as a woman?
Never.
Never thought about it?
If I ever go to prison, I would.
Really?
Oh, fuck yeah. You kidding me? Dude, if I'm heading to prison, I'm going to identify as a woman instantly so I can go to the female prisons.
You just think it would be more fun?
A female prison?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah, it'll be more fun.
You don't want to get your ass kicked? Like, what's the...
Shit, ass kicked. How about just everything else that goes on with females?
What do you mean?
What are you talking about, dude? You want to go in and get some cornhole or you want to get some freaking, normal? Like, dude, you got to, you go to prison for life.
You trying to get that prison normal, though?
Dude,
like, let's be honest.
Well, prison, if you're going to prison for life, bro, you better start thinking it's normal because that's what it will be.
You're right.
Yeah, and you want to be around a bunch of fucking, mean motherfucking dudes looking to kill your ass with the wrong move, or would you rather be around a bunch of pretty smelling females with the opportunities abound?
Is that do we know if that's a thing?
You'd be the only freaking stick in the yard.
Do we know if that's a thing for sure?
What?
Identifying going to prison? Is that happening?
I've heard it, but I doubt it's possible. Like I've heard the stories, but you know how stories are. It could just be bullshit. Listen, don't listen to the media. Okay. The media, I'm telling you, is lies. It's the craziest thing too, because when I used to watch the news, I used to think if it was on the news, it was the truth because they had some sort of obligation to tell the truth. When in reality, they have no obligation to tell the truth. Whoever owns those radio stations, whatever their beliefs are now what they're going to report on. and they can lean that report any way they want.
You think they're lying about this new COVID variant?
Do I think they're lying about it? Not necessarily.
What do you think is going on?
Well, I mean, when you say lying about it, what are they saying about it? That it's a variant? Sure. I mean, that's not probably a lie.
New thing, ramping back up. People are dying at a,
They aren't saying that.
I'm seeing it. Similar to the first couple waves.
I haven't seen anything like that. Where are you seeing it? Start sending it to me.
Typical news outlets.
I've never seen any people dying from this new variant. I see the time for boosters coming up. And so obviously they're going to start making their rounds of, hey, let's get the media to scare everybody into going to get another shot. But do I believe in some, spooky variant that's now evolved into some dude, variants only get weaker. Like every scientist knows that. Okay. So COVID was a dud. They're going to have to come up with something. COVID's like one of those firecrackers. Like if you were to light a firecracker to scare your parents and you throw it and it just, duds out, it's over. You can't bring it back and try to make it work. Or if you do, you might blow off your hand.
I want to kind of wrap the last 10, 15 minutes here. I want to talk about your roller coaster story. But before I do, I want to get your take on group coaching programs. You and I have a few mutual friends that run these kind of programs now. So Jimmy Rex has his deal with We Are the They. Keaton's got his with the Limitless Society, which you've talked about on your deal before.
I've got Real Coaching.
You've got Real Coaching. Ed and Andy have their REIT syndicate thing. Arate. Sorry. What are your thoughts on these group coaching programs? I mean, it seems like...
Well, it depends on who they are. Like Sean Whalen's got one. Garrett White's got one.
Yeah.
There's many people with one. Ed and Andy, like, dude, if you don't listen to Ed and Andy, who are you going to listen to? Like, fucking, dude, they're great to listen to. Sean Whalen's great to listen to. Keaton's great to listen to. I'm great to listen to. The question is, who do you resonate with? I would recommend people join them all because there's people in them all. And that's the goal, is the people. It's not the guru that's putting it on. It's the network. It's the relationships that you meet within them. I mean, there's a lot of people not winning because they don't have the right information. So you join these things to get the right information. There's people in there with the right information. Now, whether that information is specific to you and your situation or your business, not always. Sometimes you'll go in there thinking, man, I just want to close a deal with some of these guys with my bong water business, and nobody smokes weed or nobody has any need for it. And you're thinking, oh, this is a bust. But that's because you're not valuing the relationships. Like you might stop messing with bong water and now all of a sudden you're in plastics, and the guy that you met there turned you onto it and now is your basically your wholesaler, and now you got to connect over here and you're making, this business created out of fucking thin air because you were sitting there talking about success. Like-minded people, dude, around each other is magical. It's a mastermind. Go look at Think and Grow Rich. Like mastermind is one of the chapters in there.
Yeah, from 100 years ago, right? I've heard you talk about your homeless experience. We talked about it a little bit today. When I walk in this building and I sit down with you, it seems like somebody who's very competent, has his shit together. You've got a big company. It's successful. It's been around for a long time. But it hasn't always been this way, and you've been on your own roller coaster journey, right? I want to talk about, can you give me a sense of when you were homeless, literally living on the street? Like, what is going through your mind? Are you thinking this far ahead, or are you thinking, how do I get to tomorrow? Like, what's going through your head when you're living on the street?
I think when I was living on the street, my thought was, how do I find a girl that has a place to live? It's immediate, get off the street. It's not, in 30 years, I'm going to be, It's how do we handle what's going on right now? If someone came to me right now, they're on the street, I'd say, first of all, we got to get you a couple of things. What I call a stable table. You got to have a stable table. You know, if you're trying to make things work and your life's, you know, unbalanced and rocky, imagine putting a pen and then a thing on top of it like that, you know, and you're trying to balance this, you know, and it's hard enough as it is. Life's hard enough as it is. You don't want this. You want to put that on the bottom. So now you have a stable table. What's a stable table? That's the basics, dude. It's food, shelter, and transportation. You got to have food, shelter, and transportation, man. You're worried about fucking making millions of dollars. You ain't got food, water, and transportation. Shut the fuck up, okay? Start focusing on food, water, and transportation. And now once you have food, water, and transportation, now you got a stable table. Now think a little bigger. Okay, how about a job? I could even have a job. Well, certainly you can now that you got the food, water, and stable table. Some people will say, well, how do you get that without a stable table? It's more difficult. It can be done. Yes, it can be done. And a lot of times that's how people get out of it. They'll get a job somewhere and they'll literally sleep in the back when the store closes and like crazy shit. I've heard crazy stories. But, you know, there's a million ways to succeed. All I'm telling you is a stable table makes it a lot more realistic and sane. So you focus on your food, water, and shelter. Once you get that, you focus on frickin' income, you know, and then in my opinion, network and relationships. So get your income so you can have money coming in, but then build relationships and network. Relationships and network, and keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, and you're going to find connections, you're going to find similarities, you're going to find opportunities everywhere. And if you take advantage of them, you know, with ethics and integrity intact, I think over time you're going to find yourself a business person with a very successful business. And it could be nothing that you would thought about back when you were homeless. Because like I didn't think about being a tech founder growing up. And this is this company, where you're sitting right now, this is a tech company 100% of the way. We are a SaaS model tech platform. So and global, mind you, because we're in over 60 countries. So we're a global technology. It's crazy. And I'm the CEO and founder of it.
That is crazy.
And
It hasn't
I'm not
always
even
been SaaS though, right?
Huh?
Services business for the first several years and then turned into SaaS?
No, it was always SaaS.
It's always SaaS?
Yeah.
It's incredible. I had no idea.
I started at SaaS 24 years ago.
Before SaaS was SaaS.
It was just SWAS. You know what SWAS is? That's when you work your ass off and you get fucking sweat in your ass. Like waiters. I used to be a waiter, and sometimes there was always these waiters that would walk around talking about freaking they got SWAS, which is like old monkey butt. It's something you don't want from what I hear. But it's sweaty ass. We got the sass with the SWAS.
So eventually you get off the street, and how does this come together? Lightspeed, 25 years ago.
Oh, Lightspeed? Well, I mean, you know, because it was a genius idea. You know, it helped a lot of people solve a lot of problems. Anytime you help people solve problems, money's, you know, relayed back and forth. So, you know, I was solving my problem originally with it and didn't realize I wasn't trying to solve yours or trying to solve other people's. I was trying to solve mine, and I solved my problem and at the same time solved other people's problems. So that's kind of how it began. I started out as a training company wanting to go help people make more money, and then realized that I wasn't actually training people anymore. I was now just kind of going in and talking and leaving, which it didn't work as well. Because training takes good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. Without those four things, it's not training, it's just exposing. So most people expose their employees to training, right? But they don't actually train them, and then they wonder why it doesn't work, and you know their turnover's high and their customer satisfaction's low, and it's because they're not actually training. Training takes good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. So once I realized this, I'd already quit my job to go train people, and I'm like, shit, well now how am I going to do it? Well, there was this thing out there called the internet just coming around, and I'm like, imagine if they could log in online and I'd pop up and say everything I was going to say had I been there in person. Like, what's the difference? You hear it in person instead of online. Who cares? It's the same fucking information. So I kind of started to invent in my head this online training platform that would test and track and measure and monitor and do all this crap. And then I found someone that could build it, and I closed them on building it because I didn't have any money. And then I, eventually gave him a piece so he wouldn't leave. And so now that's who owns it, me and my partner.
Still.
Same
partnership.
Yeah.
Is he still involved technically?
Yeah.
In the company?
Yeah, he's sitting right over there. Matter of fact, he's more involved than I am. I always joke around and say I haven't worked here in about 5-10 years. Because I haven't really, I've just kind of sat back and almost slept. It's weird. When I look back, I'm like, dude, I haven't done much. Like, this is really depressing.
So is that true? Like, what % of your time are you spending on the business versus other stuff?
Well, I say it in jest. In other words, I'm here and I'm working. But at the end of the day, I could have done a lot more. I don't like to scale chaos. So I was developing systems and processes for everything and documentation for everything so I could sell it. Because again, if you're the one building the business and then you leave and the business goes to shit, well, then you didn't build a business. Okay, no one will buy it. You want to be able to sell a machine. So it took me a while to build the machine. Now it's a machine. Now I'm blowing it up through marketing, which I've never really done. And now we're about to do hockey stick growth, and then I'll probably exit in 3 or 4 years and ride off into the sunset.
Amazing. Let's wrap with one last thing. You get to the end of your life. You get to tell your kids one final thing to help inform or educate or share a piece of wisdom on how to live. What is the one thing that you're going to say?
I would say, I'll have to think only because, if I want them to be happy and win and, because winning is really perspective, isn't it? So like, why would I tell them what to do to be rich and not realize that being rich isn't necessarily what would make them happy? Yeah. Because a lot of times people think money's going to make you happy. And when you get the money, it doesn't make you happy. And the reason is because the money was never going to make you happy. You were already happy. We are already everything we need to be. You know what I'm saying? And people live in the past and people live in the future, and very few people live in the present. And the present is the only place you'll ever live. You realize that? You'll never live in the future. You'll never live in the past. You'll only live here in the now. So like right now is literally the only thing that matters, because you will never live in the future. Yeah. So why are you worried about the future, and why are you worried about the past? You can't be changed. All you can do is friggin' take from the past and learn from it. And then moving forward, live in the now, because guess what? The future will unfold as it will. See what I'm saying? But how will it unfold? How will it be determined? Your future. Based on the shit you do now. Like if I want to be in shape by Christmas, I got to start fucking now. I can't wait till Christmas. So it's like the now is what matters. Everyone needs to focus on the now. Like wake up. What's going on right now? Worry about right now. And that's literally the best way to be. Some people can say, well, what about the future? And what about this? I've heard some decent arguments as to why you want to think about the future and plan for the future, a little bit, which I agree with a little bit. But if you don't focus on the now, there may never be a future. And here you are spending all your time on the future. You're miserable today because today you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't feel this way, you don't feel that way. And just as soon as the future comes, you'll have this and you'll feel this and you'll bullshit, dude. That'll never happen. Okay. You gotta start right now. Start feeling it right now. Start feeling, like, have you ever heard pride goeth before the fall?
No.
You've never heard not to be proud of yourself?
I mean, yeah, sure. But yeah.
Why would they want to teach us that? So what would I tell my kids? I would tell them, number one, I would just want them to be kind and be generous. if they're kind and generous, I think they're going to live great lives at the end of the day.
Kindness. I think
just kindness and generous. Those two things, I think you're going to be fine.
So underrated too. Kindness in my mind. I just think I agree. I think it's one of the greatest qualities that humans can have, but I think it's so underrated. Well,
that's because a lot of times we hear about people that are being kind and they get run over. But again, you don't have to get run over just because you're kind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get run over and I'm kind.
It's not mutually exclusive to weakness, right?
A lot of people think that, though.
They do.
They mistake kindness for weakness.
For sure. Amen. Brother, thank you for coming on. This was a pleasure.
Sure.
To be here.
Thanks for having me. Coming all the way out here just to do it.
You got it, brother. Thank you for joining another episode of the Rollercoaster Podcast. It was amazing to be here with Brad Lea today in his studio here in Las Vegas. And the three things that I want to mention as takeaways from the show today are: number one, relationships are everything. They are the key. If you want to get anywhere in life, as Brad says, shake more hands. It'll lead to more business success. It'll lead to more meaning in life, and really a key to our lives. Number two, the word allodoxophobia, which is, another way that I like to say this is the spotlight effect, which is having the fear of other people's opinions. I love this point that Brad brought up, and I think it's very true, right? You should care what other people think, but you should live your life in a way that's meaningful and authentic to yourself, and really care mostly about what you think and if you're proud of yourself. And number three, I love the analogy of the stable table, which is food, water, and transportation. But then to take it a step further, if you're down in the dumps and you're struggling, once you have the stable table, the baseline covered, then it leads to generating income, developing relationships, solving problems. And when you can solve real problems, it leads to money, and your upside is limitless. So thank you for joining another episode of the Rollercoaster Podcast today with Brad Lea. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.